The aftermath of the deadly hostage siege in Algeria carried out by Islamist terrorists in retaliation for the French campaign in Mali. Live to a former British ambassador to Algeria, Graham Ham joins us from London. Thank you for being with us, Ambassador. Several British civilians were among those killed during the gas plant takeover. Will Britain continue, do you think, to support the French intervention in Mali despite the threats of more attacks?
Oh, I think the United Kingdom will continue to support the French intervention. I imagine that the British government will also want to support our friends in Algeria in any way that they might ask us to.
David Cameron has said that the fight against Islamic terrorists in North Africa could take decades. Can Britain really afford to get involved like they did in Afghanistan, which I should mention, of course, started out with George Bush saying that we would be in and out?
Well, politicians tend always to say we'll be in and then we'll be out. I think Mr. Cameron knows that this will take time. I don't imagine that he is thinking of committing British ground troops to North Africa, but there's a lot we can do in terms of intelligence, technology, logistics. I think it does have to be done. The question really is how can we afford not to?
There was the thought that France went in because of possible uranium resources there. What is Britain's interest then?
Well, I think Britain's interest is in having stability on the if you like, the southern flank of NATO, just across the Mediterranean from Western Europe. I don't accept these conspiracy theories about minerals. I think it's really about knowing that we have stable neighbours.
Stable neighbors, but at the same time, Britain openly backs rebels who are known to have sort of attachments to Al-Qaeda and other Islamist groups there. So where then is the consistency?
Sorry, what rebel groups are those?
In Syria.
Ah, yes.
It's the same region, and you're saying that's more of a geopolitical in terms of security and not resources. So where then? Why yes in Syria, no in Algeria and Mali?
Well, I think it's a different story. This is not an Al-Qaeda-linked Islamist uprising in Syria. It's ordinary people who want a different life. They want to be rid of a tyrant Assad in charge of them, and this will solve itself, apparently without any intervention from the outside. I think the story in Mali is completely different. It is a foreign intervention by the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists themselves. This is not honest Malians trying to change the government.
What about the reports that we're hearing about where some of these Islamists in Algeria, if we could move to there in the hostage crisis, where they got their weapons from? Because there are reports, and it's sort of known by critics, that those weapons came from Libya and the attempts there to push out Gaddafi. Gaddafi went, there were arsenals there, and all of these weapons flowing into the region in neighboring countries.
Actually, to my knowledge, the Algerian rebels are fairly well armed anyway, because they have been fighting the government in Algiers, as you probably know, since 1990, these Islamist rebels. But, of course, the supply of weapons from Libya can only make matters worse.
The UK says there won't be any British boots on the ground, so to say, but we've already seen footage of armed British soldiers on UK cargo planes flying French hardware to Mali. Is there a feeling that London might not be coming clean about all the facts?
Oh, I think, in a democracy, people have to come clean. It's clear that you don't send your aeroplanes into a war zone without ensuring they have some sort of protection. So there will be people on board who are armed. But that's a whole different thing to having fighting on the ground with an organized and large body of troops.
Returning to David Cameron and him saying that this could take decades, years certainly, kind of this overall fight against Islamists in North Africa, West Africa, in the entire region. If we look at the U.S. and their war against terror and how Washington sort of moved on to passing laws that would allow for measures such as wiretapping and indefinite detention without charge or trial, are there any fears the same could happen in Europe if this Islamist threat does escalate, as is being predicted by officials like David Cameron?
This is a very hard question to answer. I think it's a good question. You know, if you get into a situation where your existence is threatened, then I think certain democratic rights may have to go by the board. That was certainly true during the Second World War. But we're a long way from that sort of problem in Western Europe. And I, for one, I think many people in Western Europe would be very, very worried by indefinite detention and torture and all that sort of thing, which, you know, basically undermines democracy.
Algeria is the third biggest gas supplier to Europe. If this Islamist insurgency does escalate, what effect do you think that might have on Europe's energy and economies, especially at this very difficult time for the euro?
Well, there is a serious threat there. You know, no one can say that gas or oil supplies have been interfered with yet, but if the Islamist terrorists get the idea that they should interfere with them, then I'm afraid they can, because a lot of these pipelines are just run along the desert. So I think if that were to become a feature of Islamist terrorism in Algeria, for sure it would have an effect in Western Europe, but it's hard to quantify that.
Just finally, as a diplomat, your personal opinion, how long do you think we'll see this kind of intervention in Mali? How far will it go?
Well, I think it's a huge area. Mali is huge, Algeria is bigger. There's a lot of places for insurgents, terrorists, call them what you will, to hide. I think this will take years. I don't know if Mr. Cameron's 10 years is pessimistic or optimistic, but I would say years.
All right, live from London, former British ambassador to Algeria joining us, Graham Hand. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.